The studio was buzzing with energy. Fans filled every row of seats, clapping and cheering, as Kelly Clarkson prepared to introduce her next guest. Tonight's episode promised something special. Country music legend Reba McEntire. The anticipation in the air was palpable, as everyone knew Reba had a reputation for being honest, outspoken, and unafraid to speak her mind. Backstage, Kelly paced nervously. She had carefully reviewed the questions, prepared the jokes, and even practiced her timing. She wanted this interview to be fun, lively, but most importantly, memorable. Little did she know it would become unforgettable in a way no one anticipated. When Reba walked onto the stage, the applause was deafening. She wore a tailored jacket over a flowing dress, her iconic smile lighting up the room. She waved to the audience, acknowledged Kelly, and sat down with grace. Yet there was a flicker of something else in her eyes, a subtle hint that tonight's conversation might not be entirely lighthearted. The first few minutes of the interview were smooth. Kelly asked about Reba's recent projects, her tours, and her experiences in Hollywood. Reba laughed, joked, and engaged warmly with the audience. But then Kelly, trying to bring some humor into the conversation, made a comment about Reba's career longevity. "You've been at this for decades," Kelly said with a playful grin. "Do you ever get tired of performing? Or is it just you refusing to retire?" The audience chuckled, but Reba's smile tightened slightly. She responded with her trademark wit. But there was an edge to her words that suggested she wasn't entirely amused. Kelly, sensing a small reaction but brushing it off, continued down this line. The subtle tension began to build. Reba's answers became shorter, sharper, and more deliberate. The jokes, which were intended to be playful, started landing with a slightly uncomfortable weight. The audience, sensing the shift in energy, leaned forward, curious and tense. Kelly laughed lightly, trying to maintain a casual tone. "Oh, come on, everyone loves a diva story. Don't you have a few fun scandals to share?" Reba's eyes flicked toward Kelly. The warmth of the earlier conversation was fading. A hush seemed to fall over the studio, though applause still echoed faintly in the background. For the first time that night, the audience realized this interview might be different from the usual. Kelly, sensing the stakes rising, decided to take the conversation further, testing the boundaries. "Fans love you, Reba, but some say you can be difficult on set. Directors, co-stars, have you ever felt misunderstood?" Reba paused. The studio grew quiet, tension thick in the air. A few nervous chuckles from the audience were swallowed by the silence. "Difficult?" Reba repeated slowly, her tone measured. "I've spent my entire career being honest. That's sometimes interpreted in ways people like to exaggerate." Kelly smiled, trying to lighten the mood. "Exaggerated stories sell magazines, you know?" Reba leaned forward slightly. Her voice, calm but firm, cut through the tension like a knife. There's a difference between telling a story and twisting someone's words to make a headline. I've spent decades creating music, connecting with people. I don't owe anyone a narrative that isn't true. The audience sensed the underlying storm. Kelly, slightly caught off guard, chuckled nervously. All right, I get it. But the rumors!" Reba's eyes narrowed. "Rumors are exactly what they are, rumors. I'm not here to validate gossip." A hush fell over the studio. Even the cameras seemed to hesitate, capturing every tense movement. Reba straightened in her seat. The warmth from earlier completely replaced by a controlled intensity. Kelly, now aware she had touched a nerve, tried to pivot. "Okay, maybe let's talk about your new tour." But Reba's patience had worn thin. Her tone was sharp now, unmistakably warning. "I came here to talk about my work, not to defend my life choices to a microphone." The audience shifted in their seats, sensing a dramatic moment building. Reba's words hung in the air. The laughter that had filled the room earlier was gone, replaced by an almost electric suspense. Kelly opened her mouth to respond, but Reba had already stood. Reba rose from her chair with a grace that contrasted sharply with the tension in the room. Her gaze swept across the studio, then landed firmly on Kelly. "I've been performing for decades," Reba said firmly. "I know when an interview has crossed the line." The audience gasped. Kelly, caught mid-sentence, froze, unsure of what to do. The band went silent, hesitant to fill the sudden void. Reba turned and walked toward the exit. Her steps were deliberate, confident, and final. The cameras followed her, capturing every second of the walk-off. Some audience members stood in shock, unsure whether to cheer or stay silent. Backstage, sources later revealed that Reba didn't shout or make a scene. She simply left, calm, collected, and unmistakably in control. She had drawn the line and no argument could pull her back. Kelly remained on stage, holding her notes awkwardly. "Well, that just happened," she finally said, trying to recover, but the tension in the room was palpable. Social media exploded within minutes. Clips of the walk-off went viral. Fans praised Reba for standing up for herself, while critics debated whether Kelly had pushed too far. Headlines the next morning screamed, "Reba McEntire walks off live TV. Kelly Clarkson under fire for tough questions. Legendary singer draws the line on air." The walk-off sparked a nationwide conversation about respect, boundaries, and the power of speaking your truth. For Reba, the decision was simple. She didn't leave because of a joke. She left because the conversation had crossed a line, and she refused to compromise her integrity. The cameras faded to black. The audience, both in the studio and watching from home, was left in suspense, wondering whether this was just a dramatic TV moment or a turning point in live interview history.